Hi, I'm Sue Jameson. I'm ward councillor for Bruce Castle, but I'm also the new mayor of Haringey. And having been a ward councillor, I've seen how in Bruce Castle we've got some really, really beautiful places. And I'm really looking forward to, as mayor, to finding all the other beautiful places that exist in all the other wards in Haringey. Like I found some hidden gems, and I think they need publicity. They need shouting about. We need to know how good Bruce Castle Museum is, how beautiful the cemetery is, and we've just got some absolutely lovely places, and we've got some lovely people, and we've got some lovely communities, and we've got some communities who get together, organise beautiful events, and they need some encouragement as well. And it would be lovely to bring together the communities that organise their events. Maybe if they're a bit separate, we do it all together. So that's what I really, really want. I'm hoping to see more people outside. Like, we've got a beautiful green borough, and I want to see our green spaces really used. So I've chosen Mind in Haringey for my charity for this year. And the reason I've chosen Mind in Haringey is because people encounter an awful lot of difficulties, and people respond to those difficulties in different ways. And mental health, I think, is just so fundamental. It's just so fundamental. Yeah, I am looking forward to it. Exciting, nerve-wracking, all sorts of things it's going to be.
Miss Sue Jameson.
Yeah.
Welcome to Notebook. Do you want to explain to people who you are, what you do?
Okay, so I'm the mayor of Haringey,
Yep.
and I've been mayor since May, and I'm mayor for a year, so I'm mayor till next May.
Okay. And how are you feeling? How are you finding being mayor at the moment?
It's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
So what have I done today? Today I've had a meeting about the New Year's Day parade, and I've had a meeting with Mind, and now you. And tomorrow we're going to see a venue that we might use as to host a fundraising event for Mind. So at the moment, because it's August, in June and July, it was really busy with lots of events all around the borough, and it's wonderful because you just get to see how communities work, how they, essentially, I think human beings really like to give and bring people together, and there's been just so many organisations and events where that's been proven.
I think it was the same thing with us. Well, when was it? Last week? Or this week? Was it this week? It was last week.
Last Thursday.
Same thing with us. We're just bringing everyone together, and and that's your main. Is that your favorite part about it, or is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's meeting people like Dorothy.
Yeah.
She really, really wants to give to the community, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She really wants to bring communities together, and there are just loads of Dorothys everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, there is. So how do you combat the people that are trying to do not the complete opposite, but just personal gain? People that are just in most things for personal gain, or in any type of circle for personal gain, whereas when it's supposed to be about everyone else.
Well, I mean, I think if people are in something for personal gain, that's a very insecure position. So if they're there because they need their ego boosted or their confidence boosted, it's coming from an insecure position. And the same, I think, applies if it's a financial thing. So, people value themselves according to, measure themselves against their income or whatever, their income status and things like that. But then we do live in a culture that promotes that. We don't live in a culture that really promotes selfless acts and everyone going out to call on a neighbour every day and so on and so forth. But then some people will just naturally do that.
Yeah.
But then our life, it's hard to organise your life to do it in the first place,
So that's interesting you say that, because I was having this conversation and this thought this morning, funnily enough, which was people my age. So I want to say from 20 all the way maybe to 28 or maybe 30. What was it like for you in terms of the relationship between your money and your actual identity in terms of who you were? And how do you think it is now? And it's going to be a lot. And what do you think needs to be done to educate people about money, the relationship between money and their actual life and themselves?
So firstly, when I was your age, I found it quite easy to earn money.
Yeah.
Essentially because you've got loads of energy.
Yeah.
You've got mountains of energy. So if someone says, do you want to do this? Say yes, and you go off and do it. And then if you want to work in the evening as well, yes, you do it, and you find yourself with lots of jobs. And now it's much easier because essentially my housing is sorted. And for young people your age, it's very difficult to get housing sorted. And it's a fundamental for everybody. So so that's the big difference.
And how do you think
between my age and your age is having housing sorted?
Okay. And how do the people of my age that are trying to swallow their housing situation, how do they juggle I'm going to say their value, because I feel like people think their value is directly tied to their income. How do you, or how did you combat that actually? How did you navigate that, or was it just not a thought?
It sort of wasn't really a thought. Because I always could pay my rent, and but also when you're young, you've just got so much optimism for the future that everything will sort itself out anyway. So I don't remember it being a thing. It wasn't something I measured myself by, really.
Okay, which is I kind of thought that would be your answer. I kind of thought that would be your answer, and for me, it was a while. It was a while before I realized, the way I grew up was a bit different to most people. So I got used to it quickly, but at the same time, it took me a while to be confident in who I am, regardless of what is or isn't in my bank account.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether someone knew or they didn't know, I feel like certain insecurities that people have, it's just going to be there because you know.
Yeah.
Other people didn't know, or to be fair, most people don't even care how much is in your bank account usually. But for me, when I was growing up, it was more, I can't be too confident because my bank account isn't confident, if that makes sense. So how do you think going about combating that or teaching people financial literacy, how do you think that would be done, and how important do you think it is?
Well, I think it's very important. Like, it's a very English thing not to talk about money. but it's a fundamental in everyone's lives.
Yep.
Whether they can pay their rent, whether they're going to get trapped because of their income. It's I suppose ultimately I think it's about you need to prioritize earning enough in order to be able to live, but not prioritizing money above everything else, because the most important thing is your mental well-being. So it's finding balances, really.
Yeah.
It's finding balances, but it's also finding the right opportunities to be able to negotiate, get yourself into a good settled position.
Yeah.
So you're not always living hand to mouth. Can you pay rent this month? But also not working all the hours God sends, and only working and not doing anything that's really good for you and everybody else.
Yeah. So obviously we've been, well, not obviously, but we've been freestyling this interview so far. I have got questions, but you did say mental well-being. That is something that is one of my questions on my phone. Why is that important? Why is it important? Why do we need it? Who does it benefit?
Well, I think it benefits everyone, because if you have a family member who has poor mental health, I mean, there are grades to it, but really poor mental health.
Yeah.
You have to consider them, you have to look after them, you have to, you have to focus on them, because, it's a dangerous world. So they can end up harming themselves or harming somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And these things affect so many people. When these things happen, it affects so many people. It's not just the victim or the perpetrator. It's whole, it's families, it's groups, it's communities. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. And how have you dealt with your mental well-being? What's the most the most difficult time you think you were, or a time you were struggling with mental well-being?
Oh, well, I suppose.
See, you said don't worry, and then you. Sorry, go ahead.
I suppose there are times in everybody's life when they have difficulties with their mental health, and I would imagine if I looked over my life and really wanted to scrutinise it for those episodes, I would have quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
But the one there's a couple that come to mind, but one that I think is easy to talk about is after I had my first baby.
Okay.
Which is a really normal thing for people to be just all over the place. And it had been a very dangerous birth, so I was scared. So I stayed in too much, and I'm just not somebody who stays in, but I was scared. I was just scared to leave the house in case. So, but yeah, that was quite a bizarre time. And then I think, because I'd done that, by the time I sort of started going out, I just went out all the time. That was it. We were up and out all day.
Yeah. Which don't you think is a good thing? Because you so what do you think was like of course it's a good thing, but what do you think was like the thing that got you going, that made you say, okay, let's get up, let's go do stuff, let's be in motion?
Well, with a baby, you're constantly scared that they might go to sleep and not wake up. What made me do it? I don't know. I just sort of set myself I don't know. I think actually someone reached out to me and asked me to go to a local playgroup, and it was across the road, and they'd reached out several times, I think. And I'd all say, yeah, and never go. And eventually I went. And once I tasted freedom, that was it. I wanted to go again and again and again. So, and then I just went to more and more things. So I think it was a neighbour just being persistent, I think.
Okay. And that was basically your mind opening up, correct? Yeah, I've got a quote.
I mean, relaxing. That Alfie was now sturdy and healthy.
Yep.
I was sturdy and healthy. We were sturdy and healthy. It wasn't like it didn't frighten me getting down the stairs. You know, do you know what I mean? It was
Yes.
You know, with a tiny baby. You know, do you know what I mean? Not too many things frightened me, and then once he was sturdy enough, and he was really sturdy, that was fine.
Okay. Well, like I said, I have a quote which says, once your mind is opened up to a new idea, it can't go back to its original state. So your mind opened up to what idea specifically? Besides you being sturdy, because you knew you were back on your feet.
Yeah.
You knew your son Alfie was healthy.
Yeah, I suppose the idea was that the world was safe.
Okay.
That it was,
And it wasn't before?
I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel confident, blah, 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 So I think it started feeling safe. And I referred to that first year of Alfie's life, as my year inside, because I spent too much time at home and not leaving the flat, even on a really nice day. I mean, I was just really nervous, and I didn't acknowledge it really. It was only after that I realised what I'd done, At the time, I didn't question it. That's where I needed to be.
It's crazy because that tends to. I think that's happened to me before, and I didn't realize things that were happening
while they
were happening.
Yeah. It's only when you look back you realise what you've done.
Yeah, I remember my first time moving out of my mum's house. I was very young, but my first time moving out, for 3 months straight, it was go home, basketball. I indulged in some things I shouldn't have indulged in, but home, basketball, indulgement, then the same, then college, then the same thing for 3 months straight. And I didn't realize I was doing it. And eventually I was just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So I think that for me, I always scream this.
I
always scream this, which is present moment at all times. If you're not in the present moment, you will not never, but you won't enjoy what's happening now, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Because if it's bad, you're gonna have to deal with it. If it's good, you're still gonna have to deal with it. So have your full self here, because now when your full self is here in a good way, you have more in your arsenal, your personal arsenal. I know you support a charity called Mind. Why did you decide to support them?
It was a very easy choice. In fact, it was so easy because when it was suggested that instead of going for deputy mayor, as I was going to, I go for mayor, and I said Mind would be my charity. If anyone questioned it, I was like, nope, I want Mind. I mean, I can't go into all the reasons, but I can go into the reasons that are to do with Haringey. So we have some very densely populated places. We have lots of people coping with very tricky circumstances.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I think people reach a tipping point, and we have to have services there for those people who reach a tipping point or a breaking point, where where they struggle to cope on their own anymore. I mean, I do see, like in summer, I think there's less. Like in the winter, I've seen more people display what looks like mental distress, and in the summer less so. And of course, we've just gone through winter, so I've been through winter and I've been looking and seeing people who were quite evidently distressed and thinking, and I'm just conscious we don't have enough services to meet everyone's health needs, and mental health is seen as a poor relation. It's not talked about. If I talk to my friends about suicide, for instance, we all know someone who's committed suicide. In fact, we all know several people who've committed suicide. But it's not a subject that is talked about openly at all. And I can see why, because if you're a friend or relative of someone who has, you only talk about it to very trusted people in very safe circumstances. So it's got to find itself onto the government agenda. It's just so vital that people have good mental health. They can cope with so much more if they've got good mental health. But also, I think we need to make sure that we don't put too many strains on people, that society doesn't put too many strains on people. Although, it's that thing of communities wanting to look after each other. People do want to look after each other, and yet we've got quite an unbalanced world, I think, at the moment.
I agree. So, my question to you is, why do you think that people don't look after each other as much as they want to?
I think if they don't, it's because their time is spoken for. There are demands on them, or I think everyone wants to do it, and if they find themselves not doing it, they feel it. It will reflect in on them, I think.
Okay. So you're saying because of time...
There's very few people who don't want to contribute in any way. I mean, it's almost like I can't believe they even exist. There are very few people that are takers. Most people want to give. I think they need maybe some choices about how they do it, but they want to give.
And you think the reason for that is their time, their duties of life.
Circumstances.
Circumstances. Okay. I'm going to tell you my theory.
Go on, yeah.
I'm going to tell you my theory. I don't think that people don't want to help. I just think everyone, because of, not to sound too cliche, but society and all these things, you have to portray a certain image. And now if you're associated with someone you spoke about money, you're with someone who's of a lesser household income than you, or you're with people that don't so much look the part, whatever the part is, you've now risked your reputation for this person in most people's eyes. And because that person isn't known to be cool or of any importance, some people just don't even want to have a conversation. I've seen it with my own two eyes. Some people just don't want to have a conversation with other people because of the preconceptions they have in their head of that person.
Okay.
Bear in mind,
that's a very insecure position.
I believe so. But at the same time, I think what I'm saying is, so with the society now, I think most people, unpopular take, but most people are, especially my age and this generation, are chronically insecure, chronically insecure, but we mask it as something else with money, with things. Because my thing is, like, you never judge a person by what they have. You always judge a person by how they make you feel and what they can teach you. That's the only two things. Judge a person by three things: how they can make you feel, what they can teach you, and how they think. How they think. That's the main one for me. But that's my theory. I think we're all chronically, including me, we're all chronically insecure because there's certain things or certain times where I ask myself, "Oh, why did I do that?" I think because I think a lot. I think, and I'm just like, "That's why I did that. Why am I doing that? Because of that." And it's usually not usually, but it's sometimes an insecure thing. But yeah, that's my take. I think we are chronically.
What would make you feel secure?
What would make me feel secure?
Yeah.
It depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. Are we talking money? Are we talking my career? Are we talking business? It depends what it is. For me,
what about relationships?
In a relationship, interesting. In a relationship, what makes me secure, and it depends what your definition of secure is.
Yeah. Or whichever relationship we're talking about.
Or what relationship we're talking about. What relationship
are we talking about? With family, could be relationships with siblings, could be relationships with partner. Really key relationships, grounding relationships.
So for me, I can definitely answer that question. For me, any relationship I'm in, for me, it highly is dependent on acceptance.
Okay.
I want the other person to accept me for me, and that's it. What do I mean by that? I mean,
so you wouldn't want someone to say, "Oh, well, I won't go out with you because you don't earn enough."
Yeah, I mean that, and like that, and like just away from the earning stuff, away from the artificial stuff. It's like, oh, you did this, or let's say I do backflips and you don't like backflips.
Okay.
I'm not gonna hang around Reese because Reese does backflips. I don't like people that do backflips.
Okay.
But if you say I don't like, if your approach is different and it's I don't like backflips in general, you do backflips, but I like you. I like the type of person you are, so I'm gonna accept you. I'm gonna let you know that I don't like your backflips because I really don't like them, but I like you. Yeah. So I'm gonna take you with or without your backflips. You know, so that's my big green flag for the three categories I was talking about. Those are my green flags. I really want people to just see me, accept me for me. Once I know you're not gaining, you're not gaining anything. Maybe you do want to gain something, and that's okay. But if you've come to me with pure intentions, I will know just for the simple fact that you're not trying to get anything from me. You're accepting me for me, and I now feel comfortable to be me. And now that I feel comfortable to be me, I feel more comfortable to share things with you. You feel more comfortable to share things with me, and then that's how we get a better relationship. So I think that's how every relationship grows. Every single relationship. If it's like an intimate relationship, then you're gonna have to say, okay, cool. What's your insecurities in terms of other people? Because that's usually the thing. What's your insecurities with other people? Because if you see me talking to the waiter, I don't want you to get upset. And if that's the case, then you may not be someone I'm going to be with. We could just be friends, whatever it is. If you're hearing something that someone said about me, but you haven't came and spoken to me yourself, then that's another red flag for me, because it's like you're just listening to information about another person from another person who has a different perception than you.
Yeah.
So there's so many layers before you actually get to the person. So there's a lot of. That's what makes me feel secure. It's not even. I think it's very simple. I think it's very, very simple. It's just hard, and the reason why it's hard is because of the insecurity stuff we were talking about. So remember, as I said, one person won't talk to you just because of maybe how you look. Meaning now they have pressure on them from other people to look the part, be the part, act the part. So maybe they genuinely do like you, but if the friendship group or whoever they're trying to impress doesn't like you, then unfortunately they're gonna act a certain way with you. But at the same time, now that problem is not with you, it's with them, because now they have to break the barrier of trying to impress their friends. Then they have to break the barrier of just being themselves. They have to work on themselves a lot before they can even be around you. So I think that's a simple thing. If I want to be a businessman, I need to work on being a businessman. If I want to be a basketball player, I have to go in the gym, put in the necessary hours, and be the basketball player. And I think this is the part, like you said, a lot of people overlook, which is mental well-being. If I want to be a better person, or in my opinion, better anything, I have to work on myself first. How do I go about every endeavor that I go on? So I think it's a simple thing. I don't think it's complicated at all. I just think, again, because of where we are in the world at the moment, a lot of things are blurred and no one is really direct and straight to the point. Everything's kind of, are we gonna, should we, and then boom, something happens. But it wasn't planned, but it just happened. But whatever it is that happened, I think everyone knew it was going in that direction, but it could have been sped up had we have spoken about the actual facts of reality now rather than beating around the bush. So I think it's simple. I think it's really, really simple.
Okay.
Yeah. You just got me being the interviewee. What challenge did you have? What challenges do you think you had growing up? That's maybe different to everyone else's, or maybe it's just regular and it's the same as everyone else's.
Well, I think I was quite lucky in that I grew up in, in a safe place, and with married parents. Um, but my brother had died, so there was grief. It was growing up in a household full of grief was a difficult thing, and that's really the biggest thing. And I didn't even think about it for years and years and years. It was just a normal thing. And then one day I mentioned it to a friend of mine who's a counsellor, and she said, that's quite a difficult thing to rock with." Oh yeah, so it is.
How old were you?
How old am I?
How old were you?
Oh, how old was I? So Michael was 7 and I was 4.
Okay.
But so my parents had a young family, and then it was much harder for my sister, who was 2 years older, because her and Michael were very, very, very close. She was older and understood more, so she knew what was going on, whereas I was just absorbing atmospheres, I suppose. I think.
You're absorbing the energy that was around you, basically.
Yeah, some crazy energy goes around.
When you say absorbing, how did you absorb the energy? How did it affect you?
Well, I think I just pushed it all away and spent my time running away, really. Rather than being part of what could have been a really solid family. So I think that was my reaction, but I didn't analyse this until really relatively recently. It was just normal. It was just the way it was,
Yeah.
I mean, people react to things. They have to, don't they? But as a child, you don't understand why you're doing something. You just do.
You just do. You just do. You're most present when you're a child. The most present. Zero worries in the world. Zero worries in the world. Did you have any mentors?
Yes, I did. Now, I remember you asking me that last time. I did have mentors. I had, and I still have, a friend who is still my friend, and I was with her on Sunday, and we had a good natter for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And the next day I felt so good. So, yeah. Now she's my oldest friend. She's a bit crazy. She's my she's my eldest child's godmother. She held Alfie before I did. Um, she runs a very fascinating company called Together, and it's about cultural alignment. So she travels all over the world. She's just very happy. She's always happy.
Yeah.
So, and she's always got a scheme. Always got plans and schemes and things like that. So yeah, she was a mentor really. She'd be someone I could talk to, bounce ideas off, and she equally could persuade me to do things against my better judgment.
To do things
So
against
she was definitely got a wild side. So, but anyway,
interesting.
we did
how did she make you feel? Remember, I said to you how it's a person. It's about how a person makes you feel, and what they teach you, and how they think. So, how do you think she thinks? How does she make you feel? And what does she teach you?
She makes you feel like the future is bright. That that everything's going to come together.
Yeah.
You know, she's one of these people. By this time next year, we're going to be millionaires.
Yeah.
You know, she's like that. She wishes the world well. You know, Kamala's going to win. Trump's going to be finished. You know, she just wishes the world well.
Yeah.
And she's always looking for excitement and new adventures and those sorts of things.
Okay.
You know, she's just one of those people that's always got a scheme on the back burner.
Okay. And how does her as a mentor help you? Because as you know my mentor. I don't know, having mentors for me is like I don't know. It's like looking yourself in the mirror and like saying, how did you come up with this and I didn't, if that makes sense? Because you're me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to because they obviously as your mentor they see something in you and they want to push you. Yeah, I feel like the thing that they see in you you are alike in certain ways, and yeah, they're like a sibling. They're like a sibling.
I mean, so one time, I think I was about 19, 20, and she had been living with a boyfriend in Spain. And when they split up, she came home, she came back to England, and I had a bedsit in Islington at the time. And she phoned me up and said, "Oh, Susie, I'm back. I said, "Oh, what are you going to do?" She said, "Oh, I'm just living at the dad's. I'm going to do this, that, and the other." "Please, come and live with me." So she came to live with me. And although we're living in this tiny room,
yeah,
we just had such a laugh. We just had such a laugh. And that's essentially was our raison d'etre.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose having, like on all the dating sites, good sense of humour. I suppose a sense of humour that you share with somebody. I mean, it hasn't tired over 45 odd years, whatever it is. More.
Yeah.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's these connections. I mean, and when you start having experiences together, you bond, don't you? You spend time together. You do things together, whatever things those might be. You bond. So, so that's But there is an initial feeling, isn't there, when you meet somebody? You get a good vibe from someone. You think, they're sound, they're trustworthy. You get that, and then you build a bond from there, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what it's like with Lisa.
Okay.
It's still there after all these years. And not only is she friends, am I still friends with her, but I've introduced her to people I've was friends with something else, and they've hit it off as well. So
yeah, okay.
It's
so you're bringing people together.
Yeah, it's built.
Okay. Interesting. Not even interesting. Beautiful. That's what it is. So when you were around my age, 21 to 28.
I've got to think back an awful long time.
It can't be that long. But we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there. Okay, so
did you ask me how old I am?
I didn't.
Is that what you asked?
I didn't.
Okay.
Would you like to tell the audience? Okay then. Okay then.
But isn't that a bizarre thing? It's one of these sort of social dishonesties.
Yeah.
That we don't. I don't say blatantly how old I am. I ought to say. Right, I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
I'm 58.
Okay.
But it is one of
these
social dishonesties, isn't it? We avoid. Some people avoid saying their age. Other people positively lie about their age.
Yeah.
And it's, why do we do these things? What difference does it make?
Social norms.
Yeah.
Social norms. But yeah, no, it's a good 58. Don't worry, it's a good 58. So when you were my age, 20 to 28.
I'm going back. Apologies.
What do you think your biggest mental struggles were?
My biggest mental struggles. Well, I wanted security, I think. I wanted, the thing is, I don't know how old you are, so I can't work out.
Would you like to know?
Yeah, go on.
I'm 25 years of age.
Right, so I was already with my husband, so I felt that was a good thing, but we were very financially insecure.
Both of you?
Yeah. I mean, we could pay our rent, but we couldn't get any further, sort of thing. That was our problem. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially the issue there was that financially we weren't in a position to start a family, but there was already the biological urge to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't. I don't think we can really. I mean, I look at the young people today, and they have to spend so much time working just to pay their rent. And and I saw an article the other day saying, us young people, we aren't selfish. It's not out of selfishness we haven't had children. It's because we simply can't afford to. And these are important bonds that are good for a person, and they're a natural thing to happen. And society's not allowing people to do something that is natural.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real injustice, I think.
So,
but I actually, at your age, I still wasn't actively thinking about having kids. It was still something I would have liked to have done in the future, sort of thing.
Okay, that's interesting. Because well, before I say what I was going to say, so your main thing was like most everyone else's today, which most people my age, which their insecurities are today, is the financial.
Yeah. Loads of financial insecurity for people.
It's interesting you say. What was the last thing you said? Oh my gosh.
Something about biological urges. I wanted to have
kids.
People being denied.
It's crazy because
denied the opportunity to do something that's just very, very natural. It's
Yeah.
Part of our DNA.
Yeah. And I've realized, I think a lot of people nowadays, again, my age, I speak to them, they either don't want to have kids or they're going to have kids very, very late.
Yeah.
Very, very late. I want to say 30, 32, early 30s. Because then that's when you're more
biological
relaxed financially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just something I realized. I realized a lot of people either don't want kids now or want to have kids a lot later.
Yeah.
A lot later. Which I think is a good thing. Kind of. Young people in Haringey.
Yeah.
How do young people get involved with Haringey Council, and what benefit would they get from getting involved with Haringey Council?
Well, people want to hear from young people. I think councillors want to hear from young people. Council departments want to hear from young people. There's Tottenham Voices, there's Wickham Voices, there's the Bruce Grove Youth Centre, there's Rising Green in Wood Green. And people want to hear from young people because, like, the future is in young people's hands, we think. Well, that's what we think. There's climate change and there's huge issues. And in theory, young people should be most invested in that because they're the ones that will have their lives shortened if we don't address climate change. Which, it's got to be a massive injustice, hasn't it? And there's many and various injustices, but surely that's got to be one of the biggest ones. So how do they get involved?
Yeah.
Now, I ought to know this, oughtn't I? I know that there's groups and things that you can belong to, and there are Tottenham Voices and things like that. But specifically, I think you just join things. You just join things and make connections with people, and the roots then become sort of obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Hesketh, everyone knows Hesketh. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows Hesketh. Even people who have worked at the council 2 minutes know who Hesketh is. There are people that have already established those roots. But I would say people do want to hear from young people. They do want to hear what they think, what they feel, what they need.
That's a big part of why I asked. I think there's this battle between older generations and young generations. And I want to know your opinion on it. I'm going to tell you my opinion.
Okay.
The battle is, so the older generation is saying, these young people don't know what they're doing. They never listen. We're trying to guide them the right way, but they just want to do what they want to do. That's how, at the moment, this is how I feel like it. This is what I feel like it is. They just want to do what they want to do. We're not going to go down to their level. They need to come to us because we know what's right. That's how I feel at the moment. Not all of them, but I do believe a good chunk of them. And then the younger people are more so, it's kind of the same thing. These older people don't want to listen to us. We're the younger people. We want to live our lives, rightfully so.
Yeah.
If you're not going to sit me down and talk to me how I want to be spoken to or respect me, then why should I listen to a word you're saying? Which I agree with to a certain extent. But also, one more thing. I believe there's two different types of older generations. The younger generation could always be saved. My mentor told me this. If you can't herd the sheep, then entertain their kids. Yeah? If you can't herd the sheep, then entertain their kids.
That's a really good saying.
Yeah. When I heard that, I didn't even get it the first time. I was like, what's he talking about? But Now, I understand it. I will explain it in a little bit for you guys. My main thing is, I think there's two types of older generations. There's the I'm gonna be very vulgar here.
Go on then.
There's the not vulgar, but just direct.
Blunt, yeah.
There's the older generation who have succeeded, or if they haven't succeeded, they're very comfortable with life and they haven't got any qualms with anyone. And they're the people you want to be around. Those are people that are going to elevate you and elevate the people you're around, and they're going to tell you the truth. And those are the people again who are successful, or if they're not, if they aren't successful. And to be fair, it depends what your definition of success is. Because if you're fully at peace with the world and yourself, or mainly yourself though, to me that's success. But those people usually want to uplift everyone. They want to get this young guy, make him understand certain things. They might understand that this guy isn't at a certain point in his life yet, so they don't disrespect him or anything. They just say, okay, move on, and then he might come back to them in the next 5 years, 2 years, wherever it is. Cool. Now there's the second group of older generation who they might be successful in their careers in life, but they're bitter. They're bitter people. They don't really want to involve anyone else into what they're doing. And when people like yourself are around, they might act a little different just to impress you or whatever. And then as soon as you're gone, they're back to themselves. So let's say you had to, I don't know, do an audit for sports or something, and you came to Selby Center and you watched me and Jason coach, and I was being nice to everyone. And then as soon as you left, I start screaming, "Get on the line, everybody run, whatever." Yeah. Those type of guys. I think that those two people, those are the two older generations we have. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I've realized it's messed up a lot of younger generations, because now we don't know who to follow. Yeah. There's a saying, be careful who you look up to, because you might be looking down. Me personally, I don't think you look down to anyone, but certain people just don't know the way, so they can't show you the way, and that's okay. No, nothing to them, but usually when people don't know the way, that causes frustration. Whatever the way is, causes frustration, and it creates friction between the older generation and the younger generation, because now the younger ones don't want to listen because you're too angry and bitter and don't want to listen to what we're saying. So even for me personally, I'll tell you, if I don't feel respected by one of my older people, then we're just not speaking. Because older than me or not older than me, more information or not, I'm still human, so are you. We can both breathe the same, do the same things. You might have more information than me, but someone else has got the same information you have. So obviously I have like an abundance type of mindset. So if you want to speak to me, great. If you don't, fine. But my thing's mainly like, I would want them to come down to our level. I'm gonna put quotation marks there.
It's not a down.
Just come to our level.
Yeah.
And then
come to an understanding.
Yeah, and then and then that way you have a mutual respect, and then you can move forward. After that, you can definitely move forward. But if the respect is not there both ways, it's just not gonna work. And the saying for those, what I said was, if you cannot herd the sheep, then you entertain their kids. What that means is, if the older generation, i.e. the parents to kids, don't understand certain things, that's okay, because their time for changing is very limited, or maybe it's finished. The kids, younger generation, we're still changing, molding into who we are, finding ourselves, all of these things. So we have the ability to change, and to change our mind, and to change how we see certain things. So that's what that saying was. But yeah, how do you feel about the opinion, the hierarchy?
Well, so I've volunteered for years at an organisation called the Lordship Hub, and it's co-op, and it's all about avoiding hierarchies. And then I worked in Treehouse, which was all about a blameless culture. So if you have a blame-free culture, it means when there's an incident, and there were many incidents, everyone is free to tell the truth. They're not scared of telling the truth because they will get blamed. They just tell the truth. And I think, so hierarchies I think are difficult, and I think a hierarchy purely that goes on age is not necessarily a valuable one. Because it's to do much more with the personality type and how absorbent a person is, how sensitive they are, what they can see in situations. It's going back to my friend Lisa, who's just always optimistic. This time next year, she's going to be a millionaire. So, and I don't think she wasn't the type of person who would ever lecture a younger person on what they should and shouldn't do. And also, I don't think, that those hierarchies where older people get to lecture younger people just shows a complete lack of understanding on behalf of the older person who hasn't really explored the circumstances of the younger person. So it's not something that suggests it's ever going to work. And it goes back to your simple idea of making a genuine connection with somebody, coming to a genuine understanding. So I'm not keen on hierarchies. I mean, they exist and they're a format that we really understand. But it really does depend on, the pyramid of power and who sits at the top.
Yep.
And, we need... I mean, when those pyramids of power exist in all shapes and sizes, not just from bottom to the to the king, queen, or president, or whatever. It's just within the organisation you work in, what happens at the top of that, and who's in charge, and we're all pretty behind Jason.
Yeah. I think
he's a solid guy.
Yes, he is. I think the hierarchies are needed, but not in a way
they're
that
easy to. Within them, it's easy to abuse and disabuse people.
Yeah.
So
that's why, because I think, cool, in a business there's positions, and I think one thing I can't speak for any other countries, but I don't think the UK does very well is HR. It's HR, because if you're hiring a manager to make everyone do what they need to do, certain people, like for instance, if you're working on a bar, they don't really care if you like the manager. They just care if the manager gets the job done.
Yeah.
My thing's more so, or how I think it should be, is like, cool, does this person get the job done? That's obviously going to be number one. But then the number two is,
if they don't, what's in their way?
No, not even if they don't, just if they do, can they be cohesive with everyone else? Does everyone else want to work with them? Are they on time all the time? Like, those small things that you would just do for a regular human being is what HR doesn't do, in my opinion. I've seen certain things in certain jobs. I've been in certain jobs, like especially with bartending, where the hierarchy is just, it doesn't matter if you're below me, you just do what I say. We're not even gonna have a conversation because you're below me. So it's sad, but that it is what it is. And the reason why I think it's sad mostly is because I think it's such a good thing. Because when there's a person at the top, if you're trying to get to that person's position and they're a genuine person, then why wouldn't they help you get to the top as well?
Yeah.
In another company, or maybe in the same one. Maybe they're getting old and they want to give up the position. Why not you? But no, I don't think anyone's going to think that just because of how our human resources is. It's mainly, oh, you've worked here, experience. Yeah, you're good for the job. No test, no looking at their background of like just who they are away from the job. Yeah, but I don't know if that's too invasive or not. I don't know. But that's my opinion.
I think if you think British HR is terrible, American HR is horrendous.
Yeah. So, Sue,
Yeah.
if you were to make a film, what would you make a film about?
Well, so I think bus routes. I think if you're on the 41 bus and it goes from one end of...
This wasn't films. This was the question for the next person I interview.
Oh, yes.
That's what it was. Yeah. If you were to get a bus from one side of London to the other side of London,
yeah,
what is everything you observe? And then you said because for you, you'd go from a poor side to a middle class side to a high class side, and you'd observe everything on that journey. Different types of shops, different types of people.
It's the type of people and where they get on, where they get off, what they're doing, who they're with,